Welcome everybody to update number 22 of my Blu-ray collection, and yeah, we're doing a Halloween horror haul, and yeah, every horror film that I have bought during the month of October is going to be shown today. I'm going to start off with one though that we've already seen in a review that I did, and that is The Howling. So yeah, this is the only one that I have so far shown off before, but the rest you haven't seen. So yeah, if you want to see more of this, then look at the review. But yeah, we're going to start off with the standard Blu-ray releases, then we'll go on to a few box sets, then we'll go on to 4Ks, then more special versions of normal Blu-rays or 4Ks, and then we'll go on to the boutique labels. So yeah, we're just going to start off with the standard ones. The first of those is It Follows. This is a superb horror film, easily one of my favourites of the last few years. Came out in 2014, so it's quite a while ago, but still, fantastic film, got a really good lead performance, and it's got a fantastic whole premise about, having sexual encounters is what passes on a spirit that ends up following you around. And you're the only one that can see it and no one else can. So yeah, that's really, really good. And then we've got the 2018 version of Halloween. Obviously, this is a sequel to the first one from 1978. And yeah, I actually really rather enjoyed this. It's got a nice slipcover on it as well, as you can see, if we get it off. There we go. Yeah, there's a standard cover, and then there's the slipcase one. I'm not usually all that bothered about slipcases, but yeah, still a nice one, and comes with 30 minutes of bonus features. Hardly the most amount. Some films you get like hours worth. And yeah, moving to something a fair bit older, we have 1953's It Came From Outer Space. Really kind of schlocky, kind of like sci-fi horror film from the 50s, but I'm a big fan of those kind of films, and it's really nice to see that this actually got finally got a Blu-ray release. It only came out this year, last year. So yeah, it's really good to see that these kind of films are getting their releases, as we saw with the Cold War Creatures box set, which is behind me somewhere. Bunch of 50s films in that, and yeah, it's really nice to see that they got a release. And finally, we got Crawl, another real favourite recent film, 2019. It was really nice to see that this did well at the box office, but also got really good critical appraisal because it deserved it. And yeah, easily one of my favourite kind of mishmash kind of films. It's got horror elements, it's got creature feature elements, it's also got some disaster elements as well because it's all set during a hurricane. So yeah, really, really well done. Got really good direction and a really good couple of lead performances. Now we're moving on to box sets. Now these are all part of the Universal Monster films, and yeah, this one is the only one that has a slip cover, and it is The Mummy. Now this has all 6 films from 1932 to 1955. Includes The Mummy from 1932, The Mummy's Hand from 1940, The Mummy's Tomb from 1942, The Mummy's Ghost from 1944, The Mummy's Curse also from 1944, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy from 1955. And yeah, I really enjoy these films. I know they're a little bit slow at times and not particularly overly scary, but they are really rather solidly well done. And yeah, there's the first film, and then you got the bonus disc for the first film there. And then you've got the next 2 films in the series on the single disc here, and then the 2 that follow it on that disc. And then finally, Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy on the last disc there. So yeah, really nice box set. Really solid film. You have to be into those kind of films to really enjoy it, and I am. Even though not all of the films are perfect, I think the last one is the weakest of the lot, but still, solid series. And then we got another one from the same Universal Monsters. 6 films again from 1933 to 1951, and that is The Invisible Man. So yeah, complete legacy collection again. So Invisible Man from 1933, The Invisible Man Returns from 1940, The Invisible Woman also from 1940, Invisible Agent from 1942, The Invisible Man's Revenge from 1944, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man from 1951. So yeah, again, spread across several discs. So you got the standard of Invisible Man on the first disc, then you got the next 2 films on the second disc, then you got the next 2 on the next disc, and finally you got Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man on the last disc there. So yeah, you don't get a bonus disc with this one, but still, it's pretty good films. The first 2 especially are pretty damn good, especially even though I love this first film, I also really rather like the second film, especially because it's got Vincent Price in the lead role, who is really rather good. Then we have from between 1931 and 1948, all 8 films of the Frankenstein series. And so this includes Frankenstein from 1931, The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935, Son of Frankenstein from 1943, The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942 even, sorry. The Ghost of Frankenstein also from 1942, Frankenstein Meets a Wolfman from 1943, House of Frankenstein from 1944, House of Dracula from 1945, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from 1948. There was a misprint on the back of here that says a different year for one of the films than it is, but yeah, still really solid series. This is probably my favourite series out of the ones I've got. So you got the first Frankenstein there. These aren't as clear in terms of, then the Bride of Frankenstein on that one. There's a bride there. Then you got the next 2 films, Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein on the next disc. Then you got 3 films on one disc there, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and finally Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein on the last disc there. So, yeah, a little bit slimmer in terms of the box than the other 2, but yeah, still packed with really good films. The first 4 films are probably are really, really solid. The next 2 are okay. House of Dracula was a bit meh, but Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is superb. It's easily one of the funniest films I've ever seen. And finally, we have between 1954 and 1956, all 3 films from the Creature collection. So, only 3 on this one, because Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954, Revenge of the Creature from 1955, and The Creature Walks Among Us from 1956. First 2 are actually pretty good, but the third one's a little bit weaker. It goes a little bit off the rails, tries to emulate a Frankenstein film in some ways, but yeah, still solid series again, and I really, really do like them, especially the underwater scenes, and the first 2 are actually directed by the same guy, Jack Arnold, who's also done a couple of other films that I already have. So really good series, and now we're moving on to the boutique labels. No, 4K even. And the first of those is Overlord. I already had this on Blu-ray, but really, really enjoy this film. Again, one of my favourite recent horror films. So, and because it's got quite a decent amount of special effects, especially in the beginning, and quite an intense beginning as well, it's hopefully going to look great on 4K. And one of the newer 4Ks that I've got recently is Scream from 1996, celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. And, fantastic film, easily one of Wes Craven's best films, that spawned 3 other films that he directed. He sadly passed away, but there is a 5th film apparently coming out soon, so hopefully that'll be good. But yeah, this is probably the best of the bunch, although the second one really does quite rival it in a lot of ways, but the third is quite weak and the 4th is at least decent. But yeah, solid film and a really good start to the series, quite frankly. And really nice to see that Wes Craven kept on with the films as long as he could before he died, because he didn't really do that with Nightmare on Elm Street, only did it with the first film, and then he left until the 7th film came out. So, looking forward to seeing this again. And, now we have 3 extremely expensive, extremely special, 4K films from the Halloween series, and that is Halloween 2, and Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, I love these covers that these films have, and crucially, they have actual hard cases as well, because it's very easy to have, a single release film have a really bad slip cover. Not like I hate the cover on The Mummy, but as you can see, that's wafer thin and it's wobbling around and everything like that. Whereas this is rock solid and really nicely done artwork as well. And I'll show you inside. So you get the original film on 4K. But you also get the Blu-ray of the original film, but you also get the Blu-ray of the TV cut as well. Which is... original Blu-ray colour timing. I was mistaking it for the second one. But yeah, you get the original Blu-ray colour timing on the on a 3rd disc. Not quite sure what the difference is. Can't say I've ever noticed that the colour has been changed or whatever. But yeah, that's nice to see. But yeah, then Halloween 2, again, really nice artwork. A little bit similar to the previous one, but still really rather decent. And I actually think this film's fairly good. I know it got a bit of a drumming from the critics at the time because it was basically more of the same, and it is kind of that way, but still. And there's the film on 4K. Then you get the theatrical cut on Blu-ray, but then you also get the television cut on DVD, which I'm curious about what it's like. It's only a minute difference, but that can be a quite a significant amount of difference when you were cutting out, say a second or two of someone being stabbed or getting killed. That can make a large difference. But yeah, probably my favourite Halloween sequel is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And yeah, this is the one that doesn't actually star Michael Myers at all. But I think it's all the better for it because it does make it a substantially different kind of film, and kind of has like conspiracy elements to it, thriller elements as well. But it's crucially still a horror film, and yeah, great cast. You got Tom Atkins in the lead role, who I've talked about already when talking about Night of the Creeps. Yeah, I really love that artwork. It's got really spooky masks, and they're obviously after some treats, as you can see. And yeah, this is a bit more basic in terms of the release. It's just got the 4K and the Blu-ray. They are at least different artwork on each of them, so it's nice to see. So yeah, bit expensive to get all three of them. They were about £37 a piece, which is quite a lot, but they did have to come all the way from America as done by Scream Factory. And yeah, therefore, inevitably going to be quite expensive to ship and, get over to the UK. So yeah, that's kind of to be expected. Now we've got a couple of releases from two different boutique labels, one a piece. And yeah, the first of those is Venom from Blue Underground. Now, I initially watched this purely out of, no irony, because there's a new Venom film out, and I thought, let's just watch this out of pure irony, and it's probably not going to be that much good, and then I can just ignore it. But it actually is pretty damn good. It's got Sterling Hayden, Klaus Kinski, Sarah Miles, Susan George, Nicole Williamson, and Oliver Reed. What a cast. And yeah, it's a really good plot film overall. And yeah, it's been remastered in 2K high definition from its negative, and features some very real and extremely deadly black mambas, which is basically what the film is. So basically, there's a son in this of a wealthy couple. He's really into his snakes and ends up picking up a snake from a pet store that he thinks is a harmless, kind of non-venomous one. Turns out it's a highly venomous black mamba, but before he can actually unbox it in his bedroom, he ends up getting kidnapped by two of his parents' employees, should I say, because one's a chauffeur and one's a maid, I think, and another guy who is well trained in terms of being a doctor, because the son has quite a debilitating illness. And yeah, they basically end up opening up the crate that the Black Mamba is in, and all havoc breaks loose in the house. And then the police get involved, and they're stuck in the house, not only with the police outside, but with the Black Mamba inside the house. And yeah, it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it. It's riveting. We use it as a single location really nicely. And yeah, has an extremely good ending, and quite violent snake attacks as well. So yeah, highly recommend seeing that if you haven't already. I know a lot of people probably haven't, because yeah, this only came out a few years ago, but again, being Blue Underground, it's an American release, so wasn't cheap, but really well worth it. And then from BFI, we have the latest, we have the new release of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956 in black and white. And yeah, even though I prefer the remake from the late 70s with Donald Sutherland, this is still a cracking film. Really well directed by Don Siegel, who did a bunch of films with Clint Eastwood in the 60s and 70s. And yeah, comes with a nice booklet as well. Going through the film itself. You got essays, you got about the restoration, you got all sorts really. It's got also a couple of propaganda films, short propaganda films on there as well. And yeah, remastered at 4K resolution by Paramount Pictures from its original 35mm fine grain duplicating positive, and is presented here in its original 2:1 Super Scope aspect ratio, which is nice to see. So yeah, superb film, even though, like I said, I do slightly prefer the remake from the 70s. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, then I highly recommend it. And then we've got two films that I got in the Arrow Shocktober sale. You already saw a bunch of the non-horror films already, but yeah, one of those is The Crazies from George A. Romero. Again, I kind of like the remake a little bit better, but this is still a really, really good film. And yeah, unfortunately it bombed at the time, which is why it went quite under the radar for a while. But yeah, really solid film. And as per usual with George A. Romero, has quite a lot of political and social commentary on the go. And then we also have the sequel to the abominable Dr. Phebes. Dr. Phebes Rises Again. Now, even though I'm not a massive fan of this film, it's certainly not quite as good as the first film. It's still pretty damn good because, you know, it's got Vincent Price in it. It's also got Peter Cushing, I think, is in it. Yeah, Peter Cushing is in it. And yeah, it's directed by someone, I think. Oh yeah, it's got produced by Samuel Z. Arkoff, who we've seen in produce other films as well in previous box sets. So yeah, solid film. Just not quite as good as the first. That's all, really. And then we have two from Eureka, as they had a 2 for, I think, 15 sale on, or 2 for 25. And yeah, the first of those is Cujo, based on the Stephen King novel. And yeah, it's got Dee Wallace in it, out of The Howling, and E.T. the Extraterrestrial, who we talked about with The Howling when I reviewed it. And yeah, this is a really good animal run amok, because they have a big, is it St. Bernard? I think it's St. Bernard. Yeah, who basically gets bitten by a bat and goes rabid and starts attacking people and family and people he's supposed to love. And yeah, really solid film. Easily one of my favourite Stephen King adaptations, especially in terms of the horror genre. And yeah, also on the same sale from Eureka, The Dark Half, also directed by George A. Romero, and also based on Stephen King novel. Weird coincidence, I really didn't notice that. And yeah, it's not the best George A. Romero film, and it's certainly not the best Stephen King adaptation, but yeah, I still enjoy it. And it's a double disc release as well, so that's nice enough as it is. So yeah, not much to say about it because it's been a hell of a long time since I watched it, but I did get it purely because, you know, I knew I enjoyed it when I first watched it, but like I said, it's been a while. And finally, from Indicator, we have three films from 3 different decades, in fact. And from the 50s, we have the excellent Night of the Demon. I recently watched this because I only recently got it, and yeah, it's directed by Jacques Tourneur, who I've seen 6 films, in fact, from before, and I really enjoyed all of those. So I figured with that cover, him as a director, and it's from the 50s, and a lot of films I've enjoyed from the 50s have been really good. I figured, how could I go wrong? And I didn't go wrong at all, because this is absolutely great. And yeah, really fulfills on the look of the monster, the demon, even on that poster, or on that artwork even. So yeah, double disc release. You get the Blu-ray and the DVD. Oh no, you get 2 Blu-rays. Oh yeah, sorry. There's 2 Blu-rays because there's 2 different versions of this film. In fact, there's one that clocks in at 96 minutes long, and there's one that clocks in at 82 minutes long. The 96-minute version is the pre-release version, and yeah, it's also technically the US reissue version as well, because it was renamed Curse of the Demon for the US market. But then on the second disc, you've got the original UK theatrical cut, which is only 82 minutes long, which is also the original US theatrical cut, also named Curse of the Demon. So yeah, you have it in 2K restoration presentation at 175:1 aspect ratio, and then a high definition remaster presentation at 166:1. I watched half in one presentation and one in the other half presentation. I do think the 175 is the one that looked the best, but that's just me personally. But yeah, great film. And you've got Dana Andrews in the lead role, and yeah, I'm not going to say too much about it because it is a great film. It is one you need to see first before you get spoiled by it. And then from the 60s, more specifically 1969, we have Eye of the Cat. So basically, there's a guy who wants his money from his aunt, but is deadly afraid of cats, and she just so happens to have 2, 3, 4 dozen cats in her home, and he wants to offer his bunker off, but he can't do that without getting to the will, and can't do that without, you know, having to go near the cats. And yeah, it's not particularly scary, but it is highly engrossing, and even though the cats are hella cute, they certainly get up to a lot of mischief. And yeah, really nice release this is. It's got a really thick booklet on it, which is always nice to see. So there's one of the cute cats there, ginger one I think, and yeah, there's another cat on a shoulder, I think, of one of the lead actors. And yeah, again, goes through the the whole thing, the whole film. It's got stuff from the time in terms of what was being talked about, critical response at the time, and then about the presentation. So it's a Universal's HD remaster was the source of this indicator edition. The film's original mono soundtrack was remastered at the same time. It's also got the TV version as well, which was supplied in standard definition from a domestic off-air recording. So, yeah, you do have the TV version as well, but TV versions typically are worse. I really can't imagine where they've taken 14 minutes, for instance, out of The Night of the Demon. And even though that wasn't the TV version, that's still a lot to take out. But yeah, really good film. Really enjoy it. And from the 70s, more specifically 1971, I, Monster, starring the great Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. And yeah, this is easily the best story adaptation of the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because this is fantastic, drenched in atmosphere, really good two lead cast, and yeah, Christopher Lee really shows his acting muscles being in two different roles, because they really are different, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, as per the story. So yeah, nice booklet again. There's one of his victims. And yeah, again, the presentation. I Monster was scanned at 4K and restored at 2K by Final Frame Post London from an original CRI element supplied by Studio Canal. Studio Canal's Legacy HD remaster was a source for the two short sections in Reels 1 and 2, which make up the film's extended cut. The film's original mono audio was remastered at the same time. So yeah, there's two different versions on this. I think, yeah, the 75-minute version and the 81-minute version. I watched the 81-minute version purely because I can't see how you can be a worse film by being slightly longer, quite frankly. It's rare that I've ever seen a director's cut or a longer version of a film that has been worse than another version. So, yeah, really, really good release. Highly recommend it. So, yeah, that's a lot of films that was. I can't remember how many exactly, but I'm definitely sure it's bigger than the 21 film haul we did recently. So, yeah, but all fantastic films, all films that I really highly recommend. Even some of the weaker ones are at least worth watching once. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.